start the recording now. Um, Welcome everyone. My name is Brian Butler. I'm an executive leadership coach with the San Diego County Office of Education. And on behalf of everyone at the county office, thank you and for participating in the San Diego County Counselor Con. We are joined today by some amazing counselors. They're going to be doing a presentation for us. We have Nicole Vergara and Andrea Rodriguez, and they're going to be presenting on creative ways to use social media in school counseling. We would just ask that you keep yourself muted. There will be some times, I believe, where there may be some interaction and they will cue you at that point, but otherwise keep yourself muted. And if you have some kind of a question of sorts, I believe they will have a Q&A time towards the end of the session. You can drop it in the chat if you'd like, but they will have a structured time for questions at the end of their presentation. And finally, I would just say that before we get off this particular session, there will be an opportunity to give some feedback in the form of an evaluation. So I would just ask that you hang on, finish the session, complete the evaluation, and enjoy the rest of your day. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole and Andrea.
All right, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Rodriguez, and I'm a second-year elementary school counselor, and I'm at the Oceanside Unified School District.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Nicole Vergara. I'm also a second-year elementary school counselor, and I work in Murrieta Valley Unified School District. Today's objectives and what we hope to cover with you today is we're going to kick it off with a short opening activity. We'll then talk about finding inspiration from social media. And then Andrea is going to guide us in a conversation about using what's trending and viral in your school counseling program. And then I'll go ahead and take us home and wrap it up by talking about collaborating through social media. And of course, we'll have time at the end for any questions or comments that you all have.
Okay, so we're going to start off with an activity called In the Know. So go ahead and grab a scratch piece of paper or a pen or pencil, or if you have your phone handy, you can type it in the notes. We're going to be showing a list of words, phrases, or pictures, and you're going to give yourself a point for every word, phrase, or picture that you're familiar with. So for example, we're all school counselors and we're probably familiar with ASCA. So if we said ASCA, you would give yourself a point if you knew what that was. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, number one, give yourself a point if you know what the word sus means.
Okay, give yourself a point if you've ever heard of the game Among Us.
Number three, give yourself a point if you can name at least 2 K-pop artists.
Okay, and give yourself a point if you know what a VSCO girl is.
Number 5, you can give yourself a point if you can name at least 1 anime show.
Okay, number 6, if you know who this is, go ahead and give yourself a point.
Next one, you know what the word noob means?
And give yourself a point if you know at least 2 TikTok dances.
The next one, you know or use the saying, it's the blank for me.
All right, and lastly, the name Hype House or Sway Boys is familiar to you. Give yourself a point.
All right, so there should be 10 total. So go ahead and count up how many you got or how many points you got. So, and then get your final numbers. So maybe your final number is 1, 3, 5, 10. And once you got your final number, go ahead and type it in the chat what your number was. So just enter a 3 if you got a 3 right, 7. Okay. I'm looking as we get in. We have a variety here. No judgment. Okay, so don't feel bad if your number's low. Awesome. So I'm definitely noticing a variety. Some of us, looks like the highest was 7. And we have some 5s, some 2s. So definitely a variety that we're working with here.
All right, so that was the activity in the know. So maybe some of you figured out that you're really low on some of these trends. Some of you maybe got a higher score. If you were kind of like on the lower end and you're really curious to know what some of these phrases meant, the word sus is actually, it means suspicious, and it's from a popular game that kids are playing now called Among Us. Two K-pop artists are BTS and Blackpink. Anime is really popular show that kids are watching, and it's Japanese anime cartoon, for example, Naruto. A noob is actually a person that kind of sucks at a video game, but they refuse to learn or listen to people who are skilled and get better. And some famous TikTok dances are Renegade, Savage, and Say So. And then the Hype House and Sway Boys are popular groups on TikTok.
Now, the point of this activity wasn't to try to make you feel bad. That wasn't our intention here. But what we wanted you to recognize is we wanted to bring an awareness to the things that are trending with our students right now. So for a quick moment, I want you to just look at the picture, look at what you see what resonates with you, and take a moment and look at these photos and these starter packs. And as you look at them, think back to when you were in elementary school. What was important to you? What were you obsessed with? What were you passionate about? I think we can all agree that we're living in a very different era where the popular things now are things like we just saw in our activity, learning TikTok dances, obsessing over BTS, or playing Minecraft or Fortnite. And what was popular and exciting for us when we were in an elementary school is definitely not popular anymore. And as silly as some of these trends are, the reality is this is just a snapshot of some of the things our students, especially those at the elementary level, are really excited about. So for me growing up, it was the Jonas Brothers. Any mention of them and you knew I was there. But for our students today, it might be something different. And during a time where our students are really disengaged and unmotivated to log on to school, it can be helpful to try to tap into the things that we know do bring them to the screen, the things that we know are exciting our students. Because there really is no curriculum or handbook on how to be a school counselor during the times we're in now. But I think we owe it to ourselves to avoid reinventing the wheel and capitalize off the things that we know are working for others. So I don't know about you, but this year and last year has been a lot of trial and error for me. Some things worked great and some things were just awful. But social media makes it really easy to share the things that do work with one another. And I feel like we're relying on technology and social media so much right now that I think it can work in our favor, and it makes it really easy to collaborate with one another as we navigate being school counselors during these challenging times. So we're first going to go ahead and kick off our conversation today by talking about finding inspiration from social media. So I want to challenge you a little bit and encourage you to try to think of social media as like a form of Google. So if you have a school-wide activity, a lesson, or awareness day you're planning for, a great place to start would be using the search bars in some popular school counseling Facebook groups. So one in particular I like to use and I go to very often is the Elementary School Counselor Exchange, but I know there's different ones for various levels, like Caught in the Middle for school counselors. So if I'm planning for Red Ribbon Week, something that I could do is I hop on over into that Facebook group, I type in the search bar Red Ribbon Week, and everything related to that has been discussed automatically populates and comes up for me. Another way that you could get some ideas is searching up hashtags. So if you're planning for the Great Kindness Challenge, searching or following the hashtag Great Kindness Challenge to see what other counselors are already doing for that event. Once I've found something that interests me, I then move on to step number 2, where I check to see if that counselor has already shared or is willing to share. So is there a TPT link that they really love that I can go out and purchase myself? Is there something that they've already put together that they're willing to share and have already posted somewhere? And sometimes it might be the case that I find something and I want to tweak it a little bit to tailor it to my site and my school. And so that's what would bring me to step number 3, where I create my own resource. So if I need a graphic that's more specific to my site about calm down tools or SMART goals, I'll typically go to Canva or Google Slides to help bring that idea to life. So to kind of illustrate what this looks like for you, these are some examples that I have that I've gone through step 1, 2, and 3. So for example, in the middle right over here, I've been dying to find virtual games. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's all I'm searching for nowadays when I'm meeting with students. And I had seen on the elementary school counselor exchange page that someone said they've done this game where they share a prompt, and if the prompt applies to the student, they turn their camera on. And I thought that was like a really great idea, super easy, but I know that my kids needed that visual. And so I was like, okay, I love this idea. I need the visual. So that's when I took it to Google Slides to create a visual for the students that I could show and create and play that game with them. So I just gave it a name. I called it Join the Meeting because, you know, when you turn your camera on, it's like you're joining the meeting. And I just created a bunch of random prompts. So for example, join the meeting if you're in 3rd grade. So all my 3rd graders would turn their camera on if that applied to them. So again, not an idea that I created out of thin air. I found it. I just needed to, you know, create a visual for it that works for my site. Similarly, on the right here, this is more related to the Great Kindness Challenge. So I had seen someone post and share that they were collecting thank you cards for healthcare workers. And I really wanted to do that, but with the precautions that I've had to take in place, my site didn't feel comfortable collecting those letters physically. So what we did is I had the kids make them and take a photo of them. They submitted them to me, and then I put them all together into a private YouTube video and instead shared this flyer with them that had a little QR code that the healthcare workers could scan. So what I want to highlight is that these weren't ideas that I, you know, just created out of thin air, but they're out there. I just had to kind of tweak it and create my own resource to make it work for my site. Just as a side note, these are some platforms that if you haven't already heard of or aren't using, these are some that Andrea and I have found most useful in our practice, especially through the virtual setting. So we just wanted to bring these to your attention in case you haven't heard of them. And so examples of ways that we've used these platforms. I have created this platform on Canva when I was trying to advertise a little lunch bunch that I put together for the lower grades that I call Talk Time Thursday. So this was just created on Canva. This flyer to market my Great Kindness Challenge week was also created on Canva. This right here was created on Google Slides. So again, I found a game that someone had shared in a Facebook group that didn't have that visual that I really wanted. And so I created it on Google Slides, and the template and everything was ready to go on a website called Slides Go or Slides Carnival, where it has everything all looking pretty and nice so that I didn't have to worry about it. I just had to enter what I needed. And then last but not least, on the far right here is Padlet, which I like to think of like a website that posts like a bunch of Instagram looking posts. So Andrea used this for a middle school transition week where she had her teachers post their middle school photos and a fun middle school memory to share with their students. So again, just different platforms that you might want to explore in case there's something here that catches your eye.
I teach my students.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to create my own resources. I need things that are like ready to go. And I totally agree with you. We barely even have time to use the restroom, let alone take a lunch. So who has the time to create new resources? However, the reality for many of us, especially those that are newer to the profession, not every program has a budget or curriculum ready to go. So the tool of at least knowing how to create your own resources if you need can be really helpful because it can allow you to tailor things specific to your school and site. So there are so many ideas available out there that people are sharing through social media, and I really want you to think of it as a hub for finding inspiration. So one example I like to give is one day I was scrolling through TikTok and I came across this elementary school counselor that I really wanted to share with you. She goes by Sarah the Counseloress.
A silly, fun strategy to help them deal with negative self-talk that I still use as a grown-up. I have all my students give their negative self-talk a name, a personality, and a silly voice. This strategy helps my students with three main things. 1, it helps them identify their negative self-talk right as it's happening. 2, it helps remind them that they are not their thoughts. And 3, it encourages them not to take their negative thoughts so seriously. I personally refer to my negative self-talk as that goober. For example, if the thought, I didn't do nearly enough today, pops into my head, I might challenge that thought by thinking, ugh, there goes that goober trying to make me feel bad about myself again. When I teach this strategy to my students, I'll often act out my own self-talk to help illustrate the idea.
I love this video. I love her account in general. She always has very helpful information. But the thing that I want to highlight the most is that I didn't go on TikTok to seek out other elementary school counselors. I wasn't on there to find self-talk lesson ideas. But we know how that algorithm can work, and sometimes it can really work in our favor. So really just don't underestimate the ideas and resources you can find through social media, because they're out there. And as creepy as sometimes that algorithm can be, sometimes it can work in our favor. And I feel like she gave me a really great idea on how I can teach positive self-talk with my kids in the future. So sometimes you might come across an idea that you like, but maybe isn't exactly fitting for a school counselor. So for example, I don't know about you, but I've come across so many ideas that I love, but are typically meant for teachers because they cover things like math and science. If you come across an idea, an activity, or a game that you like that isn't necessarily for school counselors, before you scroll past the idea, I want to encourage you to just pause and think to yourself, how can I turn this into something that will work in school counseling? Is there an SEL concept you're hoping to cover? Maybe a school-wide activity or awareness day you're planning for? Sometimes not all the ideas are right there in front of us. Since our profession is still growing, we have to think of ways to tailor it to our role. So here's another example. As I was prepping for this presentation, I had to take a little mental break, and you guessed it, I was scrolling through TikTok, and I came across Miss Frazzled, who's a super popular kindergarten teacher on TikTok, and I saw this video that I wanted to share.
My most favorite game of literally all time. We can do 10 frames anytime. This game is called Magic Rocks. You are simply a rock. But when I say magic rock, turn into, you're going to turn into whatever I say. I say magic rocks again and you go back to, ready? Magic rock. Magic rocks. Turn into a snake. Putting out fires and so excited. Find out puppies. Flower thing. Magic rocks turn into kindergartners. Oh. And we're back. Phew. I love being magical rocks, but I love being kindergartners more.
I thought that was like super cute, super fun. And I think, that's what our students need right now. And you could totally use this game exactly as it is for a lunch bunch or an icebreaker activity, but let's try to take it a step further. Let's try to think, okay, how can I use this as a school counselor in my school counseling practice? So here's an idea I came up with. You could totally show up to your TK, kinder, first grade classes and say, we're going to play a game called Magic Rocks. And instead of asking the students to turn into magic rocks, into like snakes and fire trucks and puppies, maybe you're planning to go over feeling identification. So maybe you could say something like magic rock, turn into the green zone. And you would expect all your students to show you what it looks like to be in the green zone. Or you could even take it a step further and say, magic rock, turn into the red zone, and just get really exaggerated with it, just like she did, but you're still covering that SEL content. Maybe you're going over classroom expectations and you just went over a lesson regarding whole body listening. So then you could do a little test to see if they know exactly what you were teaching them, saying magic rock, turn into a whole body listener. And you would expect them to have their eyes on the screen, their ears listening, and their body still. So like I said earlier, it may be the case you come across a really great idea that you like, and we might just have to take those few extra steps to turn it into something a school counselor could really use. And I think some really great ideas could come out of it.
Okay, awesome. So Nicole had some really great ways and ideas to discover new counseling ideas on social media. and we talked about how exciting popular trends can be, especially if we can still remember some of those things as adult years. So Nicole, the Jonas Brothers were right, but it was all about the Backstreet Boys for me. So although trends are fun and exciting, there's actually really important reasons why we should be striving to find these topics that excite students and will help them keep engaged. So I'm going to go over why this is so important. And I'm going to share some examples of how simple and really easy this could look like and how you can include these trending and popular topics in your SEL curriculum and small group activities. So when talking about student engagement, I came across this really cool quote that I wanted to share with you guys by advocates of relational cultural theory. So it states, people need to be in connection in order to change, to open up, to shift, to transform, to heal, and to grow. So I really loved this quote. And I really loved the story that Tara Brown, our keynote speaker, spoke on earlier today. If you haven't got a chance to watch her opening, it was super hilarious and super funny, but I love the story that she shared and how she built that relationship with the student from Ghana, and she really got to know that student. And it's so true. We want to build relationships with our students, and we want to understand our students' perspective. It's so important. So I have a question for you guys. We played the In the Know activity earlier. Are you in the know of what your students are experts on? And the reason I ask this is because we can use student expertise when we're building our counseling curriculum. Even elementary students, where Nicole and I work at, already have so many experiences that we can use as school counselors. For example, they have technology skills because they're on social media, or maybe they're playing online games. They're using cell phones, iPads to play all those really cool games and use those apps. We really want to connect those SEL skills to skills that they're already using in everyday life. So for example, if we want to seek out problems that they might already be dealing with, if we're talking about problem solving or relationship skills, we want to use current problems that students might be facing now in this day and age. So an example is maybe students are dealing now with maybe students sharing TikTok videos or spreading rumors that way. And maybe back in our day, or back in my day, maybe spreading rumors was like passing notes or something like that. So another example is maybe a student shares that another friend is like talking trash about them in the headset on the Fortnite game. We can use this to build on students' strength in our curriculum and be in the know of what they're dealing with now. But we can also use this to build on their strengths. So for example, if a student shares that they love playing, if they love going on TikTok and editing videos, well, we can find a creative strength, and that's a technical strength that they're probably using too. Or if students share that they're playing Among Us or Fortnite, there's a strength in that too that we can find, and we can say, oh, well, that's a great way to stay connected with peers, especially now during virtual and distance learning. So the next thing is, do you know what is relevant to your students? We can also use what is relevant and ground our school counseling program with activities and topics that really our students are interested in. An example is a study by Kaloa et al. And it studied a teacher that used rap music to teach math problems. And she chose rap music because she knew that her students identified with this music. And the study showed that students showed energy, connectedness. The simple integration of music in her lessons promoted student self-worth. And we're going to show you some examples of how you can use popular music or media in your curriculum in a little bit. We also want to observe the language that students are using and try to understand these new terms that they might be using with each other. So Nicole and I mentioned the word sus earlier, and we don't say these words just to like, we're not trying to go around being cool and like using sus or whatever, because kids are probably going to think we're super cringe. What we're saying is just understanding, knowing these terms, and observing how students are interacting with each other. So when we do that, when we try to understand a student's worldview or a student's culture, maybe we might automatically think, when we're trying to understand a student's culture, we think of, understanding their ethnic background, maybe their family life, their race, or their language. Those are all really important aspects of a student's life. But I think also when we discuss a student's culture, we have to consider that students have their own generational culture as well. So we can look at this through like maybe an age lens, meaning we might see something as trendy or a phase like through our adult lens, but to a young student, like Nicole mentioned earlier, it might be really important to them. And that's part of their generational culture now. So when we actively do this and we try to understand a student's worldview, we're really communicating to them that their lives are important and they're valued, and that we're trying to actively understand them. So we're going to go ahead and go into some activities and some examples of how you can do this. Some ways that you can use some popular topics and trending topics in your school counseling curriculum are using them in social emotional guidance lessons and small group activities. So for example, in my school district, we really focus on the zones of regulation, and it's easy to include the movie Inside Out with younger kids. It basically, if you're not familiar with the zones of regulation, there's different colors that identify with different feelings. So for example, the blue zone is sad or tired, the green zone is happy and calm, the yellow zone is maybe feeling worried or nervous, and the red zone is feeling mad or angry. So in the movie, there's these characters that kind of identify with those and match up to those zones. So another great way to talk about feelings or using the zones of regulations is to, of course, make it fun. So what I did is I created a Kahoot game where students had to guess the zone or the feeling that the character was feeling after watching a video clip. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what that Kahoot game looks like if you're not familiar with the platform. So students go ahead and enter that Kahoot code, they enter their name, and then questions pop up like, what zone is baby Jack Jack in?
It's hard to take courage in a world full. And I can't wait to see what my buddies all think of me. Just imagine how much cooler I'll be in.
So as you can see, these are some of the other clips that I included. It's really easy and interactive to get students' attention, and they really loved this game. And it's also, you're teaching them the content that you want them to learn, like social awareness. You want them to recognize the feelings that the characters in the video clips might be experiencing. So I used, anime, Harry Potter, Cars, and other clips that I knew my students liked at my schools. But it's a really easy way where you, like if you're at a different level, middle school or high school level, you can put in whatever music or video clips that are trending at your schools. Another way that you can include popular trends are in grade level activities. So I created this other Kahoot game as part of a middle school transition week. And earlier in the week, 5th graders, they participated in a series of events. One of them was a virtual scavenger hunt where they researched topics on their middle school website, like their school logo or who their school counselors were. And we also, as elementary school counselors, did a presentation on middle school topics and what they could expect. And they even got to attend a Zoom info session with their middle school counselors throughout the week. So this Kahoot game that I built was part of a Fun Friday, but it was also a way to test the students' knowledge about all those cool facts that they learned during the week. So to make it fun, of course, I sprinkled in some popular and fun topics for them to guess, such as I put, like, you can see like an In-N-Out logo in there. There was anime characters. They also had pictures of their 5th grade teachers, and they had to guess their teachers by a picture of when they were young. And Nicole was all about the Jonas Brothers, and I was all about the Backstreet Boys. But this generation is really big on K-pop, so of course I included music. And if you haven't heard of who BTS is yet, they're a popular K-pop band. They're often compared to the Beatles. So if you haven't heard of them, I'm about to bless your ears with a clip of one of their songs. But I want you also to notice that there's a lot of the trending content mixed in with the things that we also wanted to highlight. So there's things on electives. What is an elective, since that's something new to them? There's coping skills that they can use once they go into middle school. How do they handle peer pressure? And then, so we'll go ahead and play this clip so you guys can see what that Kahoot looked like. And then so you could see we asked them about what is an elective, GPA, and there's a lot of things that you can add into Kahoot to make it fun. So I like to use Kahoot. It's fun and interactive, but you can use the same idea with Google Slides if you're not familiar with Kahoot. Nicole actually has some really great Google Slides that she uses and creates with including popular music and popular activities. And these are really great activities, like Nicole was saying, if you wanted to use for icebreakers, lunch bunch, or any type of small groups that you're using to kind of get students to interact with your counseling programs. Another great way that we've used trending popular topics, and you can use in your counseling activities too, are in social emotional guidance lessons. So like Nicole was saying, it's difficult to try to get students' attention, and we're striving to, they're looking at the stream, we want to get their attention. So I know students mention that they are on YouTube a lot. So I love to use YouTube and music and popular shows to grab my students' attention. So for example, we were doing a self-management lesson, and we were discussing different self-management techniques that you can use using the zones of regulation. So you can see those colors again. And one of the slides I wanted to highlight from this lesson was the one that you can see on the right, which I included popular songs like Dynamite from BTS and Can't Stop the Feeling from the movie Trolls. And we were practicing using music to keep us in the green zone, which was feeling happy and calm. I also put in GIFs, which you can see are those moving pictures on the slides. I knew my kids really liked, or my students really liked these topics. For example, you can see an emote from Fortnite, which is basically just means a character dancing. And you could see Sonic, which is a popular movie in elementary students, or had just came out. So Sonic was really popular movie, and he's doing a really trendy dance move called the floss. And also I knew my elementary students loved Roblox. So this Roblox character is also doing a popular dance called the Orange Justice. So you can find a lot of these popular like dance moves and dance songs on TikTok or YouTube or Snapchat. Sometimes Twitter can mention things that are trending as well. And you can also use this, for whatever grade level if you do lessons, or you can use it for like the yellow zone, which is feeling nervous, or the red zone, feeling angry. If you also wanted to use these, there's YouTube videos where you can find classical and instrumental music for most popular songs out there. Another thing to grab attention for students is using popular movies, and you can incorporate this in lessons. For example, there was this really awesome Go Noodle YouTube video that was included in our self-management lesson that we created like as a team in our district, and it was really great. It teaches students how to tighten or freeze their bodies and their muscles, and then it also teaches them to relax and melt their muscles in their body. So it was an awesome video, and going into this lesson I thought like, oh, this video is going to like capture their attention. It's a video. But I noticed the first couple of times I was doing the lessons, I was looking at the students and I was watching them to see their reactions of, you know, their response to this video. And I noticed some kids were like off camera in Zoom. Some maybe like weren't looking at me, or they were just like looking in their screen, watching me awkwardly do it all by themselves and not participating, or they were just watching me doing it by myself. So a quick change that I did is I added a picture of Olaf in there, and I told them, okay, we're going to do an activity and we are going to pretend we're Olaf, and we're going to pretend we're a snowman. And in the movie, Olaf melts. And they were all really familiar with who Olaf was in the movie Frozen. And then so when I told them that, I looked and all the kids were pretending they were Olaf and freezing and then melting their bodies. And they just really loved that. And it was something super easy just to input a picture in there. And afterwards, I would ask them, you know, what was your favorite activity? And a lot of them mentioned this freezing and melting activity. Another example of this is we use stuffed animals to practice, you know, our hugging stuffed animals and watching our breath go up and down. Another addition that we added into this slides was adding this Minions video, which plays a popular song called Happy by Pharrell. And we did an animal dance party. And this was to like wake up our bodies and get them excited about the lesson. And that was also one of their favorites as well. Another movie that you can include is, of course, like I was saying, in the zones of regulation. Right here, my good friend Jennifer Hatfield is a counselor, and she created this resource where she included the Inside Out characters in each of the zones of regulation to list coping skills that students can use in the different zones. So the students also really like this, and it's a really cute visual for them as well. And one of my favorite lessons that we did this year was when we discussed relationship skills. We had students go into Zoom breakout rooms to talk about prompts like, how does it feel to be a kid during COVID-19 pandemic? What do you do to stay connected with friends during virtual and distance learning? So they had a chance to talk to each other. And my good friend, Jara Romasanta, and I created this lesson together. And she had the really great idea of coming up with this Among Us theme, which if you look right here, these are the characters in Among Us. And when we presented this, the kids loved it. You can see that they lit up. We use this taskbar on the top left. And in the Among Us game, it's part of the game where they have a task that they have to go do. So we told the kids, your task is to show active listening, listen with empathy, and listen with respect. And also a term that's used in the game is discuss. So we also included that when we were having our classroom discussion. We said discuss. And so when students saw this like simple addition and the theme, they were so excited. Even in the discussions, they were mentioning that they use Fortnite and Among Us to stay connected with their classmates and peers. So I just really enjoyed hearing their responses. And I think showing students that we care about what they're interested in and showing them that we know what they're interested in helps them to feel the sense of comfort and ability to participate. And they really opened up when they were talking about these really potential sensitive topics. So it was really nice.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. So for our last portion of our conversation today, we just wanted to wrap up by talking about how important and how accessible it is to collaborate through social media. And as many of you know, many of us are working on our own at our own site or sites, most likely sites. And while there may be other elementary school counselors in your district that you can collaborate with, we don't all have a team like we would right next door at the middle school and high school level. And social media can really be an easy platform for us to develop our own team. So ever since I started my school counseling Instagram, I've seen so many incredible ideas, and I found those go-to counselors and accounts whose ideas really resonate with me and are similar to what I like to do. And these aren't counselors that are necessarily in my county, state. Like there's one counselor in particular that's in Hawaii, but it's so interesting to be able to connect with someone and see how things are so similar in other states. And once you find your go-to people, from there, it can really just become a dialogue and a chance for you to message back and forth about upcoming awareness day, or maybe a lesson idea that you need. And everyone knows the role of a teacher, but unfortunately, not everyone knows the role of a school counselor. And I think increasing our presence on social media can also help to spread awareness of what we do, and that yes, there are in fact school counselors at the elementary level. And so hopefully if we all just decide to hop on social media, we can just take over the algorithm and eventually pop up on everyone's Discover page and For You page, and everyone will know exactly what an elementary school counselor does, right? Just kidding. But in all seriousness, I really think social media can be a catalyst and an extra avenue in place to help bring awareness about our profession. So here are a few ideas on ways that we can try to increase our presence on social media and use it as a way to collaborate. First and foremost, if you haven't already realized that I highly recommend this, I highly recommend that you create your own professional school counseling account. That's not to say you need to post every day and be super active on it. But what I think helps is that you have an account that is solely dedicated to school counseling content. So going back to this idea of the algorithm, it can help to work in our favor if we have an account that just focuses on our profession, so that more and more ideas can come up on our page. For example, my personal Instagram account has things like French bulldogs, food recipes, and iced coffees popping up on my recommended page. School counseling content can easily get lost in all of that. So it's helpful that I can go back and forth between both accounts and use one for work and one for my personal life, because iced coffee and French bulldogs are easily important to me. Another idea would be to get active on your school's social media platforms. So I know many sites have a Facebook page or a Twitter. So this is an opportunity for you to post events like lunch bunches or newsletters, maybe the classroom lesson topic that you're covering for the month, so your families can see what you're up to. So here are just two examples of Andrea sharing her Great Kindness Challenge Spirit Week for the week, in case anyone was looking for some ideas. And then this is a flyer that I put together and shared on our school's Facebook page to invite my lower grades to come to what my lunch bunch is called, which is Talk Time Thursday. Both created on Canva. So again, if you need another platform to explore, Canva is definitely a great one. And if you're up for it, you can even use social media as a way to communicate or market your program to your students. So one thing I did in my district last year, it was the beginning of school closures. It was near impossible to get in contact with students. I got so frustrated because they weren't coming to my office hours. Nobody was showing up to my lunch bunches. I got really frustrated. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and meet the students where they're at. I know where they are. I know that they're on TikTok. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. I don't want to. It's scary. It's embarrassing, but I'll do it if that means like I can try to reach some of them. So I posted a TikTok thanking students who came to my lunch bunch that day, and if they weren't there, to join us next week. And I had students private message me and say, oh, what's the Zoom? What time? It was like they had never heard about it before, because of, like, I don't know where they weren't looking, but they weren't looking at my website, right? And from there, once I was able to see that they wanted the information, I emailed it to them and they were able to get logged on. My principal and my assistant principal even jumped on board because they saw how excited students got about it. And so my previous principal to the right, he posted a TikTok dance that he spent like the entire weekend learning. And it was like the exciting news the next day. So we built up the suspense. we told the students, oh my gosh, you guys, Mr. Flaherty, he made a TikTok, and everyone wanted to see it. The teachers were going to show it on Zoom the next day. And we saw students log in, even if it was just for that split second, just to see Mr. Flaherty's TikTok. So we took the idea and ran with it. So I just wanted to share what this looked like for you. No judgment zone, right? Okay.
Aren't you the guy who tried to hurt me with the word goodbye? Though it took some time to survive you, I'm better on the other.
And then here's this one from my.
Gotta take the time to cut them off, I need her. I know how to make the girl go crazy when you treat her like you're number one, baby.
His concentration like kills me, and he told me it took him like hours to learn it. He would drop the doll and everything, but it was fun. It was fun for us, but also I think the students really appreciate it. And I think what really hit home the most is that there were kids that logged on just to see it, and even if it was for a split second, we hadn't heard from them in weeks, but they were excited to see Mr. Flaherty post a TikTok. So that's totally not necessary, but just an idea out there. One thing to definitely be mindful of if you decide to dive into it is just maintaining boundaries on your different apps. So I never follow students. I never directly reply to messages. It's just there so I can post videos and just be present on another platform that I know that they're constantly scrolling on. Also be mindful if your district has any protocol regarding using social media in your own work. And then lastly, Twitter specifically is another great platform for you to learn about the latest events or free webinars that are being offered. So that might be something worth exploring as well. And if you've got to this point of the presentation, you're like, I didn't take anything away from this. There's one thing that I hope that you can walk away with, that you can at least rely on social media to give you a good laugh or know that you're not alone during these difficult times. In all seriousness, I just wanted to sum up with this quote right here, because I feel like this whole year with trying to work through being a school counselor in the pandemic has really forced us to try new things that we never thought we would have to do. And so this quote reads right here: the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. And while there definitely is a negative stigma that can be associated by using social media in your professional practice, I think it's important to recognize that the world of school counseling that we're living in right now is none like we've ever seen before. And that may mean we'll have to try new things we never thought we'd have to do. With that being said, I challenge you just to go at your own pace, do what you feel comfortable with, but also lean into that discomfort and know that this platform of social media, while it does have its obvious drawbacks, can really provide a space for us to collaborate, hear new ideas, bring awareness to our profession, and most importantly, show our students that as silly as these TikTok dances or as weird as we think the lingo that they use is, it matters and that they matter.
Okay, so this brings us to the end of our presentation today. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. We hope that you're able to take away some useful ideas. If you saw some materials on there or flyers or ideas that you wish you had, please contact us through email. You can even follow us on Instagram or reach out whoever. We'd be more than happy to share these materials with you or join, if you want to continue the conversation with us, we'd be more than happy to. So right now we'll take any questions for the remainder of the time.
All right. I do think, Nicole and Andrea, there was a question about, you made a reference to TPT in earlier on in the presentation. Maybe you can clarify that. I think Cedra had that question.
Yeah. Andrea, do you want to take that or you want me to take it?
Sure, you could take it, Nicole.
Yeah. TPT, sorry, I should have typed it out, but it's Teachers Pay Teachers. So it's a website where a lot of different educators create their own content and sell it. So it's a great website that has so many great resources on there. Some things are free, some things you have to pay for. But that was just going back to the idea that maybe like not every counseling program has a budget. So it is a fabulous resource. I totally recommend checking it out if you're looking for anything specific. But yeah, that's what Teachers Pay Teachers is.
Cool. And then I think a couple questions were related to like certain resources that you put in your slide deck. And just to clarify, like the best way to get some of those resources might be to capture your email addresses that are here, email you specifically, and then you guys can send it back and forth that way. Is that kind of how you prefer? Okay, perfect. I just want to clarify that because there were a couple questions in the chat regarding that. So with that, once again, just if you do have a question, please just go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the questions. We have about 5 minutes or so for Q&A. Please don't leave without getting access to our evaluation documents, but just sort of hang with us for a few more minutes, and then I'll share that link for the evaluation in just a moment, please. So any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away. All right. The window of time is closing. Q&A time window is closing.
Oh, I think I saw a question on there. What does cringe mean? Cringe just basically means if you, I don't know, if you think of like a parent or something that's trying to like act cool or they're making you like super uncomfortable or something, kids will say cringe. That's basically what that means. Good question.
Awesome.
I also saw, is there an app for clipping YouTube videos or films or for videos? Is there an app for clipping videos or films besides YouTube? There's not one that I have found. The one I think that me and Andrea use pretty often is just like we just screen record if we need just a snippet. So like I screen recorded the TikToks that we needed. Andrea screen recorded her laptop that she needed for the video she needed today. So I hope that's allowed as long as you're not, copyright. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but that's what we've been using.
Yeah, there's also a great program called Screencastify that you can use to record stuff on your laptop. So I've been using Screencastify. And then in Google Slides, you can format your video where you want it to like start and stop. It doesn't like edit it, but that's also something I use when I use a YouTube video. Maybe I don't want to play the whole, 5-minute clip. I only want to play a little bit. So if you click on it in Google Slides, it'll allow you to format it. So it's been kind of helpful.
And then I saw if the presentation will be shared. Absolutely. I think we just have to, Andrea and I are just going to upload it to the Sketch website. And I think you guys can access it on there. But if for some reason you can't download us, you guys can always email us and we'll happily share whatever materials we mentioned today with you guys.
Great. Well, Nicole and Andrea, thank you so much. You shared so many like very practical ideas. I have this weird sensation of feeling old and yet more informed at the same time. So thank you for that. And there's lots of great ideas that I can tell are resonating with everybody here. So thank you. And that goes for everybody. Thank you for what you're doing in terms of meeting our students' social emotional needs in this really crazy time. So thank you for the great work that's happening, not just in San Diego County, but Nicole and Riverside County as well. So thank you for all that you're doing. And so I did put in the chat a link to the evaluation for this session. We would appreciate some feedback. We're all, at the county office, we're always trying to like make sure we're refining our practice. And this is a great way for us to get that feedback such that we're presenting like really practical ideas and meeting the needs of all of our participants. So I'll say with that, just please spend a couple minutes going through that evaluation. And when you've done that, you're welcome to jump off. I think we're a little bit early, give you the gift of a few minutes of time to, get a drink of water or whatever you need to do before your next session. But once again, on behalf of the San Diego County Office of Ed, I want to thank Nicole and Andrea and all of you that participated in today's event. We really appreciate your participation today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you, Brian, for moderating.
Yes.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. And Nicole, maybe I'll see you around town.
Yeah, maybe we'll see you around town, Brian. Thank
All right.
you, everybody.